This beautiful historic little building is got an interesting history. It's the second building that this church has had. The first was a little frame church way back on the North Road before Hovland had any highways or any roads here. And when the highway went through in the 30s, the church realized they needed to move down to the highway in order to be a kind of a viable location. And so they decided to build again. The building was designed by the art professor of St. Olaf College, and he and a couple of other professors, Howard Hong among them, organized work camps from St. Olaf students for 3 summers in a row, 47, 48, and 49. And those students came and they helped build this church.
Well, I'm a graduate of St. Olaf College, and I actually taught there for a while. I was on the faculty, and I knew Howard Hong very well because for a year I was his neighbor and got to know Howard and Edna. And when we first came up here to the North Shore and I was living in our little cabin, we came to Trinity on Sunday to go to church, and I immediately realized I was in a place with a lot of history from St. Olaf College.
So this beautiful church, all of the stonework, virtually all of the stonework was done by those St. Olaf students. These are 18, 19-year-old kids that spent the summer here. They picked up all these rocks from the Flute Reed River right down the road and brought them here in an old World War II Willys Jeep. The bell came from the old church, the old white frame country church back up on the North Road. And you can see it's got a kind of a mid-century modern kind of a look to it, as it was designed by Arnold Flotten, head of the art department at St. Olaf. Really very striking.
I'm Dorothy Peterson, and I have lived in Bay most of my life. I was confirmed in 1944. That was in the old church, and the church didn't look like it does today. There's been a lot of changes from a really remote building. It has become really modern, and it's now wonderful to have running water and instead of get it out of the lake. Wood furnace in the basement. Now all they have to do is turn on a switch and you got heat. It's been great.
And here we've got a kind of an iconic figure of Christ the Pantocrator, over what was, I think, initially seen as the front main entry doors to the church. And the doors themselves are carved by Arnold Flotten, and there are, in the interior of the doors above it is a scripture verse that's carved by him. And so this really is the focal point of the church as people pass it on the highway, and it's why we get a steady stream of people stopping here to look at the church and marvel really at its beauty.
My name is Rusty Johnson. I've been coming here for 62 years, baptized right here. Still I can picture looking at all the pews of all the old people where the Kosses sat, the Bloomquist, the Berglunds, the Strands, the Johnsons and Sundquist, the Hongs and Hinderleys. And back in the day, before I was around and this church was started, my grandpa was the chair of the building committee, and he worked very closely with Arnold Flotten. When all the students and stuff were here, my grandpa would come and he actually helped build the altar, built the stained glass. The stained glass was his first attempt ever. He was a forester up here, but in the evenings he would go in his basement and he'd try putting that glass together. For a first attempt, it's still holding together, so it looks pretty good.
My name is Kristen Karlsgaard. I, along with my husband, John, and my daughter, Martine, have been involved in pretty much all aspects of the ministry here at Trinity over approximately 20 years. And we have our favorite activities, our favorite things that we enjoy doing here. This is just a wonderful space that we enjoy being in.
Trinity has been really supportive in helping me with my music. Since I was really little, I've been playing piano after church, and then for the last couple summers, Trinity has helped me to be able to attend a music camp, Lutheran Summer Music, and that has been really special, and I've been able to come back and participate in the services musically because of that.
I first came here with my husband Ham. We drove in, and this was 1949 in September, and he just had to point out the church. Interesting. We were at the time building a cabin about 1.5 miles down the shore, and we just came every Sunday, and we came, we have felt like this was the one church of our life that was stable. It was so good to kind of come back and always know the same people and the same feeling, and loved it.
I feel that the most significant thing about this church is the people who live in Hovland, who've always lived in Hovland, whose families are in Hovland. They're so inspiring. They're such loving and accepting people that I can come from Minneapolis and I feel like I'm part of the family.
I'm Oz Anderson. My younger brother Joel was a pastor here from 58 till 66, and we've known all the pastors here through the years have been good friends. I'm a pastor myself. I've preached in this church a number of times. Some of those people that I've known, there aren't many left that I've known for those 60-some years, but there are still a couple, and then a lot of new friends that have happened through the years. It's just great people up here.
We're here because a little more than a year ago, Mark Hansen and myself kind of talking together hatched a little plan to build a model ship for this historic and beautiful little church because of our vicinity to the water, and Hovland being really kind of a waterfront community, and a history here with lots of families, fishermen, and a lot of people who have spent lives on the lake. And so in the tradition of model ships in churches, that's kind of a nod to that sense of having a gratitude for where we live on the water.
It was Bill's idea to hang a vessel, a model, in the nave of the church, and I said, yeah, absolutely. This model is built the same way they built a full-size ship. It's framed the same way. This is an immigrant merchant vessel that can be maneuvered to a point with the 6 oars that you see located on here. All this came from one board. And the sail is Muslim, although it would have been a combination of wool and flax.
Tonight we are putting on a fish cake dinner and potluck for whatever to coincide with the hanging of the new ship upstairs. Just the camaraderie of us all coming and putting on a good meal.
There are many layers to how you can understand a ship that hangs in a church. As a church, it would have been familiar with all the themes in Scripture about the water going to sea and the treacherousness and the dependence on God. I think also for a church, it links to a larger story of pilgrimage in the Christian faith, the kind of journey throughout life that a ship can represent. For this to be a votive ship encapsulates the memory of this congregation and the community in which it inhabits. And it's a way to honor and celebrate the lives of people through the generations.
My name is Sandra Hansen. My mother and her 5 siblings were born here in Hovland. My grandfather and grandmother, Chris and Ida Hammer, they helped build this church. My grandfather was a commercial fisherman. He came from Norway, married my grandmother, met her here, and they got married. They had the 6 kids. He fished off of the bay here in Chicago Bay. In 1958, the oldest son, Carl Hammer, came home from the Navy. Sorry. For Thanksgiving. And he went out to pull the nets in for Grandpa, and he never came back. And Elmer Hockvik went out to find him, and he almost lost his life. But they never did find him. He never was found. So the pain that goes along with that is also never ending for all the people that are still alive in the family. So the raising of the ship today was a big deal for me.
I like what Mark said in his presentation about how he hoped that people could find peace with the boat and maybe put some of your troubles in it. It's a vessel that you can deposit things in. But then I look at this church too, and I realize, of course, and we've talked about the imagery so many times, it's like an inverted boat. And so I like the whole idea of the boat of longing with the architecture and stuff. This is a perfect church for that boat.
The ship really represents that journey that we make in our lives, and it's a vessel into which we place our trust and our hope and our joys and our fears and our grief and all of those things, knowing that we are being carried in it above the chaos of the water, the chaos of the world, and ultimately being carried home to God.